Greetings and welcome to my presentation of my interest paper for COM 601. My name is Alok Nanda Lahiri. The paper is titled Communication of Changes the Corporate Identity Due to Strategic Alliances, such as mergers and acquisitions. So let's get started. Now, I have been part of certain companies in the past that have gone through either a collaborative partnership or a merger, and in certain cases, the activity has gone down well. In certain other cases, the merger was not taken favorably because strategic communication was not adequate. This paper will try and shed light on some of the strains on corporate identity when an organization undergoes a merger or an acquisition, and how effective communication can help tide over such challenges and make the merger a lasting success. We'll go through some context setting and then get into the heart of the matter, followed by how we can address these challenges, and then we'll wrap up. Let's do some context setting first. So, definitions of social, organizational, and corporate identities, as outlined by Balmer and al. Into the 2007 paper, stands as social identity is an internalized knowledge structure. Organizational identity is seen as a system of shared meaning, while corporate identity tends to be seen as a projected image. Now, as you can see, if identity is seen as a projected image, it's very important for practitioners to make sure that the various stakeholder groups are kept abreast and they are communicated the exact vision that senior management aspires for the merged organization. Corporate identity and brand development differences. Now, this is going to talk especially about brand development differences in case of startup-ish sort of companies, because I have been part of a company that was really small, was trying to do a strategic alliance with a large IT conglomerate, and the alliance did not go well with the employees of the startup company. When you think about brand development of a startup, they really don't have as much time to get mature in the industry and build a good brand presence, and any brand related energy is usually expended around the customer acquisition and product branding areas. So whenever there is a merger situation with a small company, we typically see that small companies suffer a more of an identity blow than the larger one that it's merging with. Now, what happens to corporate identity when a merger takes place? It's expected, the rationale behind the merger is that the merged entity, the whole is going to be more than the sum of its parts. So 1 + 1 will be greater than 2 given economic performance, synergies that are expected through these strategic complementarities. However, before we can get to that 1 + 1 greater than 2 situation, we need to make sure that the employees on either side feel they are part of a coherent whole. They feel a sense of belonging. In other words, 1 + 1 will first need to be equal to 1. And it's a bit challenging because when there's a merger taking place, there's distrust, there is general organizational fear that lives in the minds of the employees. So making sure that they are addressed, making sure that they have been communicated with successfully can make a big difference in the success of the merger itself. Now, there is a lot of anthropomorphizing of 21st century businesses where there are 3 dimensions related to heart, mind, and body of the corporate personality. So it is really important that the corporate identity change is taken very seriously, because these 3 dimensions do have a multiplicative effect on the corporate personality. The other aspect, obviously, is corporate reputation. Weiss and Anderson, in their 1999 paper, outlined reputation as a global perception of the extent to which an organization is held in high esteem or regard. Now, this definition also suggests that reputation is an intangible asset and it contributes to long-term value creation. A good reputation gives the organization credibility and reliability and trustworthiness, and also in turn enhances the organization's ability to produce tangible benefits, including loyalty from employees, latitude in decision making, and also accumulated goodwill in case a crisis hits. So it's very important that any changes in a merged identity preserve and try to mitigate any adverse effects towards the reputation of the merged entity. What can be done to do so? Leadership. Leadership plays a very significant part. They need to set the right priorities, create a very positive business environment, imbue the employees, inspire them towards more commitment and engagement, work through difficult transitions and create more trust, inspire a sense of purpose and coherence, a feeling of community, so employees are more engaged in their jobs. Jiaxin Ku, in her 2017 paper, did come across and remark that a diverse set of stakeholders have diverse set of expectations from a merged entity. So making sure that each and every type of stakeholder is kept in mind when the practitioner is designing the corporate communication strategy is very important. How can it be executed? The effective integration process does emphasize on making sure there is a course set, a plan is created and executed on day one. So rapid execution is very important, and designing and maximizing future state operations are also very critical. Also critical is the controlling of the mood of the company, making sure there is success in all the stakeholders involved. Reputational crises can take place if media relations are not maintained and managed adequately. Media is something that senior management does pay a lot of heed to in terms of opinion that external stakeholders have. And since media has a lot of influence on how the outcome is going to be. So making sure that the media is negotiated with, a framing theory is taken into consideration for the chapter 6 of our book, and made sure that a negotiated process is created to create a positive image, a positive story spin of the merger is very important. Employee communication. The KICS framework that we read about was very important in chapter 9 because it talks about making sure there's upward and downward communication and also horizontal and vertical communication. The lines of communication are open. There are forums and feedbacks and surveys that allows for two-way communication to take place and for employee fears to be allayed. Once all of these aspects have been taken into consideration and an effective communication strategy has been put in place and executed, then comes the very important part of measuring the effectiveness of the communication strategy. And as we learned through chapter 7 of our textbook, there are various qualitative and quantitative methods through which practitioners can gauge the effectiveness of the communication strategy that was put in place. The qualitative ones talk about interviews, focus groups, laddering, and repertory grids. And the quantitative, very, very important measuring factor here is using surveys. So in closing, mergers affect the identity and the culture of merging entities. The change in the entity as identity impacts the image of the entity and its corporate brand, and also the reputation is something that needs to be kept in mind while making sure that the merger communication is done effectively. So internal stakeholders such as employees, external powerful stakeholders such as shareholders need to be kept informed and aligned to make sure that they are on board with the merged entity's vision and culture. And this can be done through strong leadership communication. Lastly, once the communication has taken place, it is very important to gauge the success and the effectiveness, and then try and iterate and adjust the communication based on the feedback received through the studies and surveys. That concludes the presentation of the interest paper that I have for COM 601. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.